Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing well, keeping safe, staying healthy, everything like that. It's been a while again, because this channel has basically just turned into when I can be asked of it, when I feel like it, so apologies for that. But we are back for another video, bulk recordings, so I've got a few movie recommendations for you guys today. Yes, I've spent a lot of time watching movies, and the first movie on the list is Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, it's on Netflix. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal is a psychopathic and narcissistic he's a little bit of a, he starts to film out as a little bit of a an outcast, a bit of a bum. He doesn't have any direction. He's a criminal. He's kind of just living on the edges of society, really, and he soon discovers a liking for journalism, news anchor journalism. After he witnesses an accident, something go wrong, and obviously because of his narcissistic, antisocial personality disorder and psychopathic tendencies, he will literally do anything, and I mean anything, to get where he wants, to achieve what he wants to achieve, and to do what he wants to do. And he basically just becomes a journalist. So it's set in Los Angeles, and he wanders around and he looks for things to document, to film, to make stories of. And then he hands them into news anchors, and he kind of builds his name and reputation, and then eventually, through legitimate and illegitimate methods, he ends up kind of working for a big news anchor. I like a few things about this film. Number one is the cinematography. As someone who's kind of learning camera work and starting to do some freelancing and stuff like that, and photography, I really appreciate good camera work, and this camera work is spectacular. It's all set at night for the most part, for my memory. It's all at night, but what the director does really well is he and the director of photography, the DOP, they use deep focus lenses to sort of tell this story, so you don't get a lot of shallow depth of field. It's all very deep, rich field of view, long field of view focus, and it's really cool because obviously Jake Gyllenhaal's character is always looking for the next thing. He's alert, he's aware, he's got his wits about him, and it kind of represents his mindset and his attitude. He's always seeing, no matter how far, he's always looking. So I think the camera work really does a lot to represent that, and I think that's really slick. And obviously, I really like his character. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal is a fantastic actor, but this guy is a crazy son of a bitch. He actually ends up killing people or hurting people or committing crimes just so he has something to document, and he kind of claims it as though it's an accident, and he kind of hires an apprentice, and he really treats him terribly. And yeah, it's just kind of about his life and his kind of mental health and his mindset. Yeah, really good film. I mean, any Jake Gyllenhaal film is a really good film. Right, next film on the list is Drive. Drive is a classic. It stars Ryan Gosling, and I believe it's also set in LA. I believe you can find Drive on Netflix. I'm not too sure, I watched it a while ago, but yeah, Drive is wicked. It was a bit of a kind of a cult classic, if you will, when you're kind of first being introduced to media and TV and film studies, partly because it's just very arty. One of my favorite scenes is the first scene. It's got some fantastic music to it, and basically it's a getaway heist. Ryan Gosling is just called the driver. You never find out his name ever. You don't find out anything about his background whatsoever. He's just called the driver. and he's a getaway driver. He's basically a freelance getaway driver. So if you rob a 7-Eleven or a bank or a store or whatever, jewelry store, he will be your getaway driver. And it's just about him and his relationship with this girl, love interest, and her kid, and kind of how he's trying to balance that life and be honest with her and live both lives, and what life is he going to live at the end. It also has Bryan Cranston in it, and as you all know, I bloody love Bryan Cranston. Yeah, again, very similar to Nightcrawler. Incredible cinematography, fantastic cinematography, and I really like the driver's character. He doesn't say a lot. He's actually kind of quiet for most of his scenes. He doesn't have any dialogue, and it's obviously that says a lot about his character, because he's a getaway driver. He doesn't need to know you. He's in the criminal underworld. He doesn't want to let people know loads about him. Yeah, so I would definitely kind of recommend that if you're into like the crime kind of neo-noir crime dramas. Yeah, it's really good. Like his relationship with the underworld and his job compared to the relationship with, you know, his kind of girlfriend. Anyway, the next film on the list is one I watched recently, and I know a lot of people have seen it, but it was just too good to not, you know, say. It's Whiplash, also on Netflix. Please watch Whiplash. It's absolutely fantastic. The film is about a university student, or in America, I guess they call them college students. He's a drummer, and he's gone to the most kind of prestigious music school in New York, or kind of one of the top ones in the States. And he plays in a jazz band, and his dream is to obviously be in a jazz band, be a famous jazz musician, and he's a drummer. And it's basically about the relationship between him trying to perfect his drum skills, as well as his incredibly horrific and abusive relationship with his music teacher. Yeah, this teacher is a horrific man, super aggressive, abusive, and yeah, just kind of how he deals with that, kind of how he navigates his life and his relationship with his teacher and his girlfriend. And he's very, very obsessive, and it's all he cares about. So it's kind of like his downfall, but also kind of his redeeming quality. It's quite hard to explain, but yeah, it's mainly about how his mental health and his obsession with perfecting his music and his drumming is, to the extent where it's kind of psychotic. His teacher is a perfectionist, total perfectionist. He believes that there's no more kind of good jazz musicians, and any world-class jazz musicians would have had to go through absolute turmoil and abuse themselves mentally, and never gave up to get to that stage. And that's kind of how he treats his students. There's like a scene where he's drumming so much and being yelled at, and he can't get a break, and his hands are bleeding and there's blood, and he gets physically abused. If he makes a mistake, he gets slapped and screamed at. Yeah, and it's kind of about the blend between obsession and perfectionism, what that does to people mentally, and the amount of pressure. And yeah, all he wants to do is prove himself to this utter horrendous man, and kind of the things he'll sacrifice to impress him and to perfect his craft. I really like the colour palette. There's lots of yellows and greens, particularly yellows in this film, and obviously it's supposed to represent kind of the toxic nature of his life, of his mindset, of his teacher's mindset. And there are scenes which feel very, very claustrophobic. So you'll have scenes where he's drumming and he's not in rhythm, or it's not quick enough, or in beat, and his teacher's yelling at him in his face, and the camera is really, really zoomed in on both their faces, and there's a shallow depth of field, and it's supposed to feel very claustrophobic, and it's supposed to represent how he's feeling. You know, very, very intense in a shell. You can't escape. Tight. Yeah, it's very, very clever. The colour palettes, the kind of camera work, and what that says about the characters. I think it was actually nominated for some Academy Awards. So yeah, definitely, please give that a watch. And the last film in today's video is the new Robert Pattinson's The Batman. It is awesome. This film is basically kind of what I wanted Batman to be. and everyone loves the Christopher Nolan Batman because of how well Christopher Nolan directed those films, and the cinematography and the writing, and Christian Bale's performance, Heath Ledger's performance. And it was kind of like the first time Batman was really good, and it was really cool, and it wasn't like really 80s and corny and kind of, you know, just not very good, kind of like the 80s and 90s cheese. And don't get me wrong, I love the Christopher Nolan Batman, I love Christian Bale's Batman, I adore Heath Ledger's Joker, he's phenomenal. But for me, the Christian Bale Batman, Christopher Nolan Batman, he got Batman right, but it was just very, very kind of, it was kind of Batman in a realistic world. So it was kind of what Batman would be like in this world. And Gotham never felt like Gotham. Everything was too clean. It felt too realistic. It felt too real, basically. It was too real to life. It was kind of like what Batman would be like in a real life situation. But if you've read the Batman comics or played the Arkham games, you know that that's not what Batman is supposed to be. Gotham is supposed to be fucking mental. It's supposed to be gothic. It's supposed to be gritty, grungy. It's supposed to be over the top and kind of cartoonish. It's supposed to be really green or really black or really blue or really yellow. You know, it's everyone in that town is supposed to be a psycho and have face paint and be a criminal. And what this Batman does really, really well is it gets this hyper stylized Gotham, which I really, really like. Gotham is supposed to be extreme and over the top. It's not meant to be realistic. And it was the first time Gotham felt like Gotham. And so I really, really liked it. It was dark, it was gritty, it was kind of creepy, it was insane. You know, the colours were very, very vibrant or very, very dark. It was always raining, it was always at night. And I really kind of like how the Robert Pattinson Batman, he's kind of just like my age. He's like some 24, 25-year-old kid. He's a bit gothic. He has his fingernails black. He wears eye shadow, and he's fucked. He's supposed to be kind of like an emo-y, kind of messed up kid. And they just nail it. They nail the environment. They nail the Batman. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to what this new Batman is going to bring forward. I'd like to really kind of have this Batman join, I can't pronounce his name, is it Jacqueline Phoenix or Joaquin Phoenix, something like that. I'm sure someone will correct me. Is Joker, which is really, really good, and they kind of nailed that. So yeah, and it's really, yeah, it's just really, really good. Great performances, great environment, set design, yeah, awesome, absolutely brilliant. And I hate to say, but it is my favourite Batman. Anyway, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please take care and peace.